Turn off the lights. Now imagine, you live 1,000 years ago. Night is not rest. It is survival. No streetlights, no electricity, no phones. When the sun goes down, the world simply disappears. You cannot check what's outside the door. You cannot call for help. You don't even know what is near you right now. The only thing you have is darkness and fear. And the scariest part, you get used to it. Because everyone lived like that. Every day, night doesn't end. It is simply survived. And if you think it's dark now, it's not dark. This is light compared to what it was back then. Right now, you are safe. Back then, no one was sure they would see the morning. Modern humans have completely forgotten what darkness actually is. When you sit in your bedroom with the lights off, you are not in the dark. Ambient light bleeds through your blinds from street lamps, car headlights, and neighboring buildings. Your eyes adjust. You can see the outline of your dresser, you can see the door handle. For 99.9% of human history, that ambient light did not exist. When the sun dropped below the horizon in the year 1000, the darkness was absolute. It was a physical weight. If the moon was behind clouds, your vision dropped to zero. You could hold your own hand an inch from your face and see absolutely nothing. You were effectively blind for 10 to 12 hours every single day, and your body knew exactly how dangerous this was. In total darkness, your brain runs an ancient, hardwired software program. Your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, artificially spikes. Your adrenal glands pump a low, continuous stream of cortisol into your blood. Your pupils dilate so widely they ache, begging for photons that aren't there. Your hearing becomes hypersensitized. Every rustling leaf, every cracking branch, every shift of the wind is amplified. Your nervous system assumes everything you cannot see is a predator, because for hundreds of thousands of years, it was. We look back at medieval society and think of castles, knights, and kings. We think of them as hardened people, but historical records reveal a society completely paralyzed by the setting of the sun. In medieval Europe, the night was not considered a part of the daily cycle. It was considered an enemy occupation. As the sun went down, church bells would ring across towns and cities. This was the curfew. As we discussed earlier, the word comes from the French couvre-feu, cover the fire. But the bells were not just a suggestion to go to sleep. They were a strict legal warning. The laws of man ended at sunset. In 13th century London, if you were found walking outside after the curfew bell without a lit lantern, you were not just suspicious. You were legally classified as a criminal. The courts had a specific legal term for you, a night walker. Being a night walker was a crime punishable by imprisonment or worse. The logic of the courts was simple. No honest human being had any business being in the dark. The night belonged to thieves, murderers, and the supernatural. If you were out in it, you were one of them. City gates were sealed shut. Massive wooden doors were barred with iron. Heavy wooden shutters were pulled over windows and bolted from the inside. They were not just locking themselves in, they were locking the night out. But the fear of the night wasn't just about human criminals or wild animals. It was much deeper and much more psychological. And here is where it gets worse. Modern science knows what happens to the human brain when you strip away its primary sense. When your eyes cannot see, your brain does not just turn off. It panics. It demands input. And if it cannot find any, it creates its own. It's called sensory deprivation hallucination. When medieval peasants were locked inside their freezing, pitch-black homes for 10 hours a night, their brains began to misfire. In the total silence and absolute dark, the sound of the wind rattling a wooden shutter sounded like scratching claws. The settling of a timber beam sounded like footsteps. A trick of the shadows cast by a dying ember looked like a face in the corner of the room. Their brains were actively betraying them. This is why every single ancient culture on this planet has mythology about monsters that hunt in the dark. Vampires, goblins, demons, skinwalkers. Modern people laugh at these stories and dismiss them as primitive superstitions. They weren't superstitions. To a brain trapped in pitch-black sensory deprivation, those monsters were real. People heard them. People saw them. The terror they felt in their own homes was a physical, measurable reality. They genuinely believed that the darkness itself was a living, breathing entity that could pull you into hell if you stepped too far from the candlelight. But over the last 200 years, we committed the ultimate act of rebellion against our own environment. We killed the night. Gas lamps pushed back the shadows. Then Thomas Edison commercialized the incandescent bulb. Then came neon, halogens, and LEDs. We flooded our cities, our homes, and our bedrooms with artificial daylight. We conquered the darkness so thoroughly that we now have to buy thick blackout curtains just to get a good night's sleep. We eradicated the monsters. We eradicated the predators. We made the night safe. But we didn't eradicate the programming inside our own heads. You are carrying the exact same nervous system as the medieval peasant locking their heavy wooden door. Your brain is still wired to feel fear when the sun goes down. It still wants to spike your cortisol. It still wants to scan for threats. But because the physical threats are gone, and because the darkness is gone, that ancient survival energy has nowhere to go, so it turns inward. This is why your anxieties spike at 2 a.m. This is why you lie awake staring at the ceiling, playing out worst-case scenarios in your head. Your brain is desperately trying to fulfill its million-year-old biological mandate to be terrified of the night. If there are no wolves outside the door, if the physical predators have been wiped away, your brain will not simply relax. It will actively invent them inside your own head. It will cast their terrifying shadow over your own thoughts. We think we are so advanced. We think we have evolved beyond the fear. We hold up our light as the ultimate victory, believing we have permanently defeated the dark. We think we have outsmarted it with our massive electrical grids, and our modern wall switches, and the glowing blue light of our screens, burying our ancient instincts under modern technology. But the moment that technology goes away, and you are left alone under the night sky, or simply walking down a quiet, dark hallway in your own home, and the shadows stretch out behind you, and the only safety is the light under your bedroom door. You feel that sudden drop in your stomach, that irrational surge of your heart rate, the sudden, uncontrollable urge to walk just a little bit faster, to rush to the safety of the room, to violently check over your shoulder, to make absolutely sure nothing is staring back at you. And you reach out in a total panic to flick on the light switch, flooding the room with light before you enter, and breathing a massive sigh of relief. Do not ever let anyone tell you that is a childish fear. There is nothing childish about it. That is your primal shadow. That is the culmination of 10,000 generations of ancestors, standing right behind you in the dark, screaming a warning across time, directed specifically at you, screaming at you to survive.